According to the latest data from the CDC, more than 1.2 million Americans are living with HIV. And thanks to modern medicine, preventing and treating the disease is now possible. But the stigma attached to the virus remains. ABC News contributor LZ Granderson is discussing that story he knows all too well, revealing he's been living with HIV for years. In tonight's Prime Focus, Steve Osunsami sits down for a powerful conversation with LZ to hear why he's speaking out now and how the virus is disproportionately affecting others.
I've just told my best friend yesterday, told some other close friends yesterday.
It's like coming out all over again.
It was a lot like coming out over again. I found myself apologizing a lot.
For?
Keeping secrets.
The secret that LZ Granderson has kept for nearly 15 years.
I just keep thinking responsibilities.
Is one he hopes that by sharing now will save someone's life.
I am HIV positive and have been for a long time.
Can we please stop it with this narrative that you gotta have yourself and no one else to win a freaking chip?
He explains that for an openly gay sports reporter, writer, podcaster, and TED talker, who way back in 2013 was even called a hero for living his life so openly.
Thank you very, very, very much for this award.
That it stings him today to think that he ever let fear and shame hold him from sharing such an important truth with nearly everyone in his world.
I used to hide my pills before the housekeeper shows up.
Wow.
In my socks.
You hid your pills in your socks before the housekeeper because you didn't want your housekeeper to
I didn't want my housekeeper to find out.
You were afraid that she would tell someone?
I just didn't want anyone to know.
Yeah.
My mom didn't know.
If he wins this time, this will be his 7th Wimbledon title.
He says he remembers once cutting it close, getting to an assignment he fought for, the Wimbledon Tennis Championships in London, because he was too afraid to go out and get the pills he needed there.
Heaven forbid I have to tell my producer why I need to go to the drugstore now. You know what I mean? I didn't want any situation in which anyone would be asking me any questions like, why do you need to go to the drugstore right now? There were people dying of AIDS jokes in my environment, in my atmosphere.
That you were hearing.
So I definitely didn't feel like I was in a place where I felt strong enough that I could do all of that plus that. So I kept it to myself. Plus the guilt, trying to figure out who was it, why did you do it? All these thoughts in my head.
Were you worried you were going to have to share that with people, or people were going to ask, or you would need those answers?
I was worried I was going to shine a bad light on my community.
He describes some of the shame, fear, and secrecy that help explain why even in today's world of better knowledge and better drugs, HIV is still killing nearly 5,000 Americans each year. There's a daily pill called PrEP that prevents the disease, and still more than 36,000 people were diagnosed with HIV in 2019. More than 2/3 of them were black or brown, and every year nearly 19,000 of those diagnosed are in the South.
It's killing all of us, but it's really killing black people. And it's killing black people because we're afraid to talk about it. We whisper about it.
He points to figures from people in the fight against HIV at the CDC, showing that among black Americans in particular, only about 13% of people who could benefit from PrEP are actually taking it.
I mean, in my life, doing HIV testing and doing HIV work, there's not one HIV diagnosis I've ever made or any bad outcome with HIV that I can't somehow trace back to stigma. So I think that it's 100% a stigma thing.
You have queer black people who are dying, you have heterosexual black people who are dying, and no one's talking about it. So if you're not having the conversations and we're dying in silence, I don't see a path of joy coming out of that.
He happily shares that he was inspired by the mother of the world-famous Beyonce Knowles, who flew to the National Association of Black Journalists annual conference and told the story of her nephew, Johnny, who died of AIDS.
She flew for wherever Beyonce was to Birmingham, Alabama, to tell black journalists to get the word out about this virus that is still killing us, and especially black women. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, she talking to me? Who's she talking to? But I was just like, I have to do my part.
My prayer is that AIDS and HIV is eradicated completely, and I feel that it's in the reach. I think Johnny's message today would be to keep on taking care of yourself, because there's hope and people are living, they're not dying.
When did you learn that you were HIV positive?
So, we were in Grand Rapids. I was with my partner, who's now my husband, and I was getting my hair done. And I started to get like this huge wave of heat. And I started to sweat, and then everything went black. And I woke up in the ambulance. Got into the hospital, and I'm all hooked up to everything, and the doctors think I'm having a heart attack. So my husband's rushed into the hospital, and they ran a bunch of tests. And the only thing that came back was that I was positive.
He has a son who was a teenager at the time, and they kept him from seeing the test results.
The thing that went through my mind was the fact that my son was there in the room. I remember saying to God, I'm not done yet.
And you weren't by any means.
That was,
You know,
it was like, it was just about him. I had to take care of him.
yeah, I hear you.
So that's the only thing I was thinking about.
Outside of a hip, he's worn down playing basketball.
That's the thing I've always wondered.
LZ Granderson is in great health. His son is now a successful and grown man, but only learned about his father's health condition a few weeks before this interview.
It went really well.
Okay.
The first thing he said was, wow. And then he says, I'm proud of you, Pops. So I'm very grateful that God kept me.
Yeah.
So I can get him across that finish line, because that was the only thing I could think of that day.
Yeah.
He says if just one person hears him now and goes to get the medicine they need to prevent this disease or to fight it, or if another person starts thinking of people with HIV as having a medical condition and not a moral one, then revealing his truth will have been more than worth it.
My hope in doing this, Steve, really is to encourage people to be the hero in their own lives, especially queer black men like us, who are afraid of finding out or afraid of people thinking of them as less than. When you saw me covering Wimbledon, I was HIV positive then. Pretty sure I was looking happy.
Yeah.
So we can stop this, we can take care of ourselves, we can live healthy, productive lives. We can't do any of that if we don't get past the shame to ask for help.
Our thanks to Steve Osunsami and to LZ for sharing his story. You can continue to celebrate Pride with ABC News by tuning in to some of the largest Pride marches and parades on our Pride Across America special this Sunday, June 30th, starting at 11 a.m. Eastern, streaming on ABC News Live and Hulu.